Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is the Hurdle the Line preview show, and we have got the final week of full slate action ahead of us. Well, the final one for a couple of months anyway. And with me to talk about this last full slate of games that we've got ahead of us, I have the one and only Patsman himself, Karl. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I have finished nursing my wounds from that Thursday night, excuse my language, shit show that we put on. That was a disaster. Apart from that, I am all good. I'm all good. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. And also with me today, I have the man who says he chose the Rams for various different reasons, but we all know it is because Sam and Ram rhyme, and he always knew he could have this. Sam, the Ram, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still reeling on that Ram Banner 49ers defeat, which I think has sent a shockwave through the NFL based on what was like about the San Francisco 49ers. Very about about the Niners and the whole they can't do it without the nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I saw a tweet today that said we haven't actually looked the same since Sam Darnold left. Make of that what you will. But we've all seen what Sam Darnold's been capable of the last couple of weeks. Before we get into that, because there is something I want to get off. We have a couple of bits of news. Now, I have a couple of bits. I know, Sam, you just mentioned a couple of bits off camera, and Karl, I don't know if you do have a couple of bits, but if you do, we'll throw it to you as well. The only bits I've got at the moment are that Derwin James has been suspended for a game for repeated violations of the NFL's conduct policy and unsportsmanlike conduct and all that sort of stuff on the field, some flagrant violations. We have had contested. We have spoke a bit about. I know, Karl, you just mentioned how maybe this one wasn't the most egregious of all the flagrant violations, but and they have a rather big game coming up this weekend. It does not necessarily help certain narratives. But also, we'll get into that. We can get into that in a second. But also, the greatest center of all time. This is unbiased, completely factual speaking, based on every single bit of evidence we all have.
Good job. Jason Kelsey doesn't listen to this podcast. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So completely unbiased, obviously. The greatest center of all time, the All-Pro Frank Ragnow, is going to be out for a couple of weeks for the Detroit Lions with a torn pec. Which I believe he tore early in the Cardinals game, was able to complete the game. Meant to be weeks, not months or anything like that. I don't think he's gone. Oh, sugar! I'm throwing pens around. Don't think he's gone on IR, from what I'm aware. But we do have a bye week next week, so maybe that's part of it. So Frank Ragnow was also out. Sam, I do believe you also had a couple of bits.
Yeah, so Deontay Johnson for the Carolina Panthers has gone on IR. I do believe Adam Thielen has also gone on IR. So they are down to the wide receivers, which I believe is again Jonathan Mingo, I think. So yeah, not looking good for them, given the fact that they got strong to see the game this week. Week just gone, sorry. And Javon Hargrave is also out of the season with a torn tricep, so he will not be playing again for this season. And I think that was it. So yeah, I'm going to bring up news.
Yeah. We're used to it by now. It's okay. Karl, do you have anything for us that you picked up on that we haven't mentioned so far?
There's a little bit of news that just came out about 20 minutes ago before we went live. Romeo Odunze has ended up on the injury report for the Chicago Bears, so that's something to keep monitored for the time being. Not like you care, Fletch, but anyhow.
Don't make me sound heartless.
You're in the NFC North. You have to sound heartless.
But I care about young. I don't want him to be injured.
I wouldn't be too bothered if he was injured this week.
See, Rambling Sam's got the idea. There we go.
He's the heartless one.
Just this week, though. Anything like once this week's out of the way, can be as anything. Just out this week.
It's okay. I get it. Don't worry. Us teams with high hopes and us teams, with confidence within ourselves, we're okay playing against the best. We're okay. We're confident. We like the challenge.
So I mean, you don't have 18 players out on their injury.
Excuses. That's all there.
One other bit of news as well. The Buccaneers' offensive line is becoming more of a makeshift of CFL, XFL, and British American football players because their line is getting absolutely decimated after what we saw happen to them last week in a shocking defeat to the Denver Broncos. That was so worrying. Baker was terrible. I say he was terrible. The offensive line gave him no help whatsoever. They're injured to hell and back. So we need to see how they pan out for this coming game.
Yeah.
Well, it's also worth this is a medical news on top of that. And some of his injuries are not that serious. There's potential infection this week, which is I don't think he may not get full reps. It looks like he's available. Is he not in practice this week so far?
I was gonna say I've literally just been sent the notification for the practice report, so I'm just loading the page now. If you give me 1 second, I can get that information.
It wasn't as serious, and it wasn't as serious as they thought it wasn't. I was told that he would probably play, but just not all snaps. They probably need to.
One bit of news has just come through. Ian Rappaport has just posted Deebo Samuel for the 49ers is back at practice, which is great news for San Francisco 49ers. Bad news for me.
Bad news for everyone, really.
We're going to get burned either way. Come on, that's not...
Well, so to answer your question, because we're on Monday Night Football this week, the first practice report has only come out today rather than yesterday. It was no practice today.
Yeah.
So,
which is quite common for those when they're on the team, they're questionable anyway. It's just not injuries.
And a lot of today, so we speak a lot again on this podcast, and we have done for the last couple of weeks, that certain designations on a Wednesday, and I guess for Monday night on a Thursday, certain days like this will tend to be walkthroughs rather than necessarily full padded practices or anything like that. These are guesstimations that teams make, so some of them can generally tend to mean a bit of anything. They kind of say, you look good. Yeah, you full practice. You would have full practice today if you could have, wouldn't you? You really would have. And then someone said, no, we would have had you off over there maybe today, nursing that a little bit. So you'd only been limited, and some say no. So it's still a guesstimation. It's not necessarily a true advert. In most cases it is, but sometimes it can be a bit not necessarily exactly where they're
at. Just to add to the whole breaking news thing, Christian McCaffrey is set to miss another couple of months apparently.
Oh,
so
lovely.
So it looks like he may not be back until probably week 11, week 12.
If anybody drafted him in fantasy was your first overall pick, I feel sorry for you.
I don't.
Next to the first pick, some of the Madden curse.
Yeah, it's the Madden curse again.
Well, has been mentioned, the Madden cover curses is it's just a game you don't want to play. That's why I have been more than happy. Every team kind of at the end of the when they start to announce the cover, maybe someone like Christian McCaffrey, everyone gets it, but to a certain extent, everyone kind of throws their favourite player from their team forward, and they're just like, but what about him? Why are we getting so disrespected? Sit there going, if someone goes, what about Amon-Ra St. Brown? No, thank you.
Just put Nathan Peterman as the cover, and then no one could get injured there.
Nope. And it's just a safe bet. You just don't take them. I don't believe in curses, but I just you don't mess with them just in case. So, just saying. The only other bit. So let's get into some actual football that's going to go for.
Just the last one, and it's just because of what we talked about on the review show around the Devontae John Smith. Christian Boyd had been fined $4,600 just later. It also looks like he's not going to play this week as well. So he was essentially be AJ Brown, Smith.
Away at the Bucks as well. So to get into some of them, we can get onto that game, and there will be a couple of very interesting bits that'll get us onto that game. But let's have a look at. Let's start off with there are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5. I can count teams that are currently unbeaten in the league going into week 4. We have the Buffalo Bills, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, the Minnesota Vikings, the Steelers, and the Seahawks are all unbeaten. Now, I've got to ask this question. Let's kind of have a look at this so far. Are all of those warranted unbeaten teams? And although we all hate the question, are there any fraudulent unbeaten teams? Looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Come on.
I'll be going to go first. I've got one in my head that I'm ready to talk about.
There's 2 fraudulent teams for me. Okay? As much as the Pittsburgh Steelers, the way they've been going about their business, that is not sustainable. They will come up against a big team soon that will put points on them. What the Steelers are doing very, very well, they're utilising the running game. They're relying so much on TJ Watt, because it is basically TJ Watt, and also relying on Chris Boswell, their kicker, as well, which is good for the first few games. But when they come up against a big team, we'll see how well it pans out then from that point forward. And I just think Justin Fields, I think he could be the future for Pittsburgh. He really, really could. He has performed reasonably well, but I want to see what happens when the first sign of animosity hits him. The Steelers fall behind, because I believe the Steelers, they are more of a play in front team rather than a play from behind sort of team. I want to see what happens when they're 1, 2, maybe 3 scores down, and then you got to put the ball in Justin Fields' hands. Then you see how good this guy really is a quarterback. So that's one thing I'll put into mixed. The other team I'm going to say, this might be very clickbaity of me, but it's Kansas City. I'll give you the 3 games they've played. Week 1 against the Ravens. They were very fortunate. Isaiah Likely had his toe a centimetre out of bounds on that touchdown. Otherwise, that's game over and the Ravens win that game. Week 2, pass interference call never got called. Got the pass interference call they had on the Bengals. That got called, which really, it's soft, but I can see why they called it. But that's a play. If that happens, guess what? Bengals, we know Joe Burrow is capable of leaving that offense down the field and actually finishing off the game. And obviously, last week against Atlanta, that is about as blatant as a pass interference call I've ever seen in my life. That is blatant PI, and no one can deny that. So let's be real. Chiefs, they're 3-0, great, but Patrick Mahomes has looked off. I'm sure they'll get it together. Travis Kelce's barely getting targeted at the minute, which has pissed off a lot of players in fantasy. But I just feel like, this game against the Chargers coming up, they have to put big points on them, because it does look like Justin Herbert's not playing. So That might sound very clickbaity of me, but I've given you 3 examples why the Chiefs are 3-0 and they could have potentially been 0-3.
No, not clickbaity at all, Carl Piper. Not clickbaity at all. Sam, how you said you had one that you particularly wanted to talk about? Sorry.
Yeah, and this isn't they are, they're fraudulent. It's more of who they played, and that's for me is the Seattle Seahawks. Now, you look at the teams that they played and the resources they've got. Obviously, Patriots took them to overtime to get the win against them, and before that, you had the Broncos, which 26-20 against not exactly a big score. Then you came against the Dolphins, who had 2 quarterbacks who were not very good.
Yeah.
So basically didn't have an offense. They've not played teams that could potentially, that have team expect, so they couldn't beat. So they're beating team where you expect them to win, but they're not doing it. They've not scored more than 24 points in it, like 26 points in a game. and winning those games. So it's not like they are blowing teams away, same other teams. And they have got the Lions this week, and I think they could get found out because the Lions are better at dealing with the run than probably some of those other teams, and that's where they've been at their strongest.
Yeah.
Especially with obviously Charlotte's had a great start to the season. So for me, I think it's not a slight at Seattle. It's more just that they've won games they were expecting to win. So they've gone 3-0 in game by 2-0 in games you'd expect, and then the third game has fallen nicely because they don't have their complement of players. So I think, I could see it. Seattle will get found out, and I think it'll be this week.
Yeah, that's fair. I completely agree with, especially the ending statement there, that if they're ever going to get found out, it will be this week. I completely agree with that one, and I enjoy that thought. But I'm going to throw one out here and just say, well, I'm not going to throw this out here as a fraudulent team. I do absolutely think the Steelers are fraudulent. The last time, do you remember the last time they went on? They started a season like this and went on a similar kind of run. They got to, what was it, game 10,
2020.
and then completely collapsed, lost everything again going towards the end of the season. Similar to the Eagles last year. The Eagles did very similar last year, went unbeaten for a long time. Completely capitulated. Just not good enough. And like you say, it's not a sustainable model, and it's something Mike Tomlin does very, very. I think Mike Tomlin is a very, very good head coach, and he does what is with his team. He wins with a model that isn't sustainable. But the problem is, it's like I say, it's just he wins until they don't. And as has been said before, and I completely agree with you, Carl, you put the ball in Justin Fields' hands, and Russell Wilson will be within a couple of drives. I promise you that, and they will regret putting Russell Wilson in anyway, and they will regret having that dilemma. Right now, you're giving Justin Fields you've got him a very, very basic offensive plan that he just has to execute, and I don't want to. I'm looking at Jaden Daniels here and saying Jaden Daniels has a very, very basic offensive plan that he has to execute. He's a rookie. Justin Fields is in year 4. You can't be putting that into. If you've been in the year for 4 years, the only way you can win is to give him that simple a game. Not good enough. Like you said, won't last. I want to give props to the Minnesota Vikings. Everybody counted them out. I counted them out. Everyone said they'd finish bottom of the NFC North, even if they had JJ McCarthy. But then JJ McCarthy went out. Sam Darnold was in. Sam Darnold? Who's that? Go look at the Carolina Panthers last week and tell me what putting a genuinely good defense in and then putting a veteran quarterback who knows how to read the game with some decent pieces around him and see how that works for you. Because look what it's done to the Vikings.
I think the only thing about it is it just did some Brady's statements where he's saying that he doesn't allow the NFL these days does not allow rookie quarterbacks enough time to be able to develop and learn the game well enough to become a leading quarterback in the league. Through the years, there are very few first round quarterbacks that have succeeded. So playing from the first year, I think he's even gone through some of the players. I mean, Kyler obviously came in and did well. Then had a really, really bad season, got injured, and has come back a lot stronger. There are plenty of examples where Trevor Lawrence being one where they expect him to be the new face of the NFL, especially for the NFL became. Being the Jags quarterback just hasn't really worked out for him as well as he probably would like, and he's starting to understand that maybe Tom Brady's actually talking a lot of sense when he talks about the fact that playbooks are being simplified and they're not allowing players to understand the game in a greater level than what they did before. And it's I think that's solved. Actually, I think he's come in expected to be the savior of the Carolina Panthers, and it just hasn't worked out. And now he's in this weird quandary where he's being backed but he's being dropped at the same time. And now there's obviously a bit of last week, there's been rumours that he's going to get traded to Las Vegas, step to Miami Dolphins, and then someone else is going to go up there with the two is going to go over to somewhere else. And it's like, come on, like, he's a kid who's just struggled and he needs us and he needs someone to show him. So yeah, I think it just re-emphasizes that actually maybe sitting a rookie quarterback for a year or so, similar to what we were talking about with the Falcons, getting in Michael Penix, sitting him for 2 or 3 years behind Kirk Cousins, learning the game, learning how to play under a scheme, learning the scheme as a whole, and then putting him in when he's ready. Putting him in, they need one.
I hate the man, obviously. But the video of Aaron Rodgers in Jets, I think it was preseason practice, right? It was against the Giants. They were in like one of the joint practices with the Giants. They were doing some scrimmages. Aaron Rodgers was behind center. The snap was only a few seconds away from taking place. Linebacker comes down. Aaron Rodgers shouts, "Yeah, you're not coming down. Go away." And he knew exactly what I was going to do. He's essentially like, "You're going to stay in coverage. You're not blitzing. Don't pretend. I've seen. I'm not falling for it." That's what you say. The ability to read that defense, to read a defense, the ability. Yes, it's I'm not a huge fan of the boomer argument, but at the same time there is some truth to it. And I have been a big advocate for sit your quarterback for a year, sit the rookie. Because the best thing for them to do, because one thing that we know, all of us watch college football. I know, Sam, you're on the college pod with me, and we talk about it a bit more, but I know, Karl, you are into college. I know you watch college football as well, so we know the difference between college defenses and NFL defenses. College offenses and NFL offenses, there's a world of difference. The defenses, though, the disparity is even bigger. So going from those situations, if you don't know, because the best defensive minds, okay, maybe Nick Saban from college, but in the NFL, will throw those packages at you pre-snap that you've never seen before. And they know how to disguise a defense. They know how to disguise a read. They know how to make you see ghosts. And they know how to play rookie quarterbacks. This is why I'm saying, like, you need to sit behind a if you're going to sit behind a Kirk Cousins, you're going to sit behind a Sam Darnold. If you're going to sit behind someone who can say, right, when you go off to the side, and this is one thing I didn't like about Sunday, actually, with Sam Darnold, Bryce wasn't talking to him. It was with the trainer. But I'm not saying it's Bryce's fault, by the way. What I want to see there is Sam Darnold saying, right, when he came down 5 yards off the line, the way he came down and the way the safeties were lined up, I knew he wasn't blitzing. Watch the way they... That's the one.
Andy Dalton, not Sam Darnold.
You're Andy Dalton. You're Andy Dalton's. He goes, I saw the safeties line up there and he comes down. This is how I knew he wasn't blitzing. So that's what you need to wake up. I mean, Bryce Young, good luck to him because he's too short. He's short enough anyway. He needs to be able to... a bit more difficult for him to see. You need that because you aren't going to figure it out when the ball has been snapped, your O-line is crap, and there is a 6'5", 300-pound nose tackle in your face. You don't learn that way. I'm sorry, you don't. You either need a great O-line or some time.
I think that's it. And I think as well, you look at, like you say, he's a smaller. So staying in the pocket is never going to work for him. When you've got, let's say, 6'5", 6'4", 6'6" defenders, D-lineman coming at you. It's absolutely dead to rise in a lot of cases. So what they need to be doing is scheming. They're going to bring in some option. He's going to be the future. They need to have an offensive coach who's going to scheme pocket a lot. He's going to be into space and seeing the runs and having the reads across and having the splits and you can't just have him sitting in the pocket. It will never work. So you've got to get him out of the pocket as quick as possible so that he can read the game of it. Otherwise, at the moment, he can't read the game because at the moment he's locked up. He's got Max Crosby went down and taken out quick. So it's difficult because you want these quarterbacks to succeed as a general rule because there's so much hype around them. Actually, when they fail, it's almost like they're expected they want to fail. It's like, well, really do you want someone? Someone who's that young to be failing in their first year, maybe. I mean, I should have heard all year before he played. Before he went pretty much all year before he played.
So Brady had to. Brock Purdy had to.
I think one thing we also need to put into consideration as well, it's not just, the quarterbacks don't get enough time or they immediately start in the NFL. You've also got to remember that we are fans at the end of the day, okay? And it doesn't matter what kind of sport you watch, which is the NFL, football, rugby, any sort of contact sport, ice hockey, that sort of thing. We, as fans, are the most impatient gits on this planet. We are impatient. We just want it there and now, there and now, there and now. And sometimes franchises and clubs and ownerships, they feel under the pressure from the fan base saying, no, this player needs to start. This player needs to start right now. He is our future and that sort of thing. I'm glad my fan base are not doing it because we knew some people said Brissett is our bridge. Put May on the bench, let him learn the playbook, let him do it, and then we sit him for a year. Fortunately, the more our bridge gets worse, the noise gets louder and louder and louder. And the pressure of the fan base gets on you there, and then you have to make knee-jerk decisions, and that could either send you to the summit or it could set you back years.
I think the thing with the Patriots, for me, especially in terms of how they're managing and May, is you're in a position where you're probably going to be a top 5 pick. That was just start of the season, what you're expecting realistically.
Will Campbell's asked, by the way.
So, realistically, as a fan base, that's what you're in. It's not nice to be going in, losing game after game after game. And the way that I would see it is, do you stick Trey May and watch him get absolutely pummeled every single week, lose any show confidence that he has, and potentially ruin his development?
You'll regress him.
Yeah. Or do you stick in Brissett, who is a capable quarterback? Yes, he's not going to necessarily win you games every single week. Win you the odd game. Yeah, you're already accepting that you're not going to be doing very well. And stick with that mantra. Yes, I know it's difficult as fans because, you go in, it's like, okay, we're going in for another defeat, we're going in for another, and it's like, it can be taxing, especially when for a team like the Patriots who realistically.
Just a quick question.
Glory hunt.
Yeah. Just a quick question, you two. Have you ever been axe throwing before?
Yes.
Yes. You've seen the state of an axe board, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's Jacoby Brissett right now. It's disgraceful.
It is. Well, sometimes you've just got to ride it out for the sake of the franchise.
Yeah, but also I think so. I want to add on to this as well. I think there are two types of owners. Well, there are multiple types of owners, but you've got owners who understand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are good owners. These are the owners you want. I'm going to toot our horn. I'm going to say Sheila Fordham. She understands. She understands what her weaknesses are. She understands what to get into to combat those weaknesses. She understands you pass them down. Not everything needs to be. You have to understand and trust the process and culture and all that sort of stuff. A lot of teams have them. Sometimes you have your owners who, like you say, maybe feel a bit too much pressure from the fans. They're not very business. But you also have the owners who are businessmen and they make business decisions. And that's great. These teams are businesses. Don't get me wrong.
But it doesn't equal to football decisions.
Exactly. So, for example, I'm going to look at the Bryce Young situation and say, oh, look, right, if I'm a business and I've given up assets from my business to obtain this asset, I have had to give up a chunk of the potential future of my business to get this asset, in the hopes that this asset's the one that's going to take me up and keep. This is going to be the one that accelerates taking me to the next level. If that asset starts not performing to what it should be doing, there are too many owners who are businessmen who say, no, my stock is in that, and you can't pull the stock and put any of it into the next thing, into the thing. The old piece of equipment. It's the old car that's rusted. It's a bit rusty, but it's reliable. It will get you from A to B, not fast. It's, you're not going to pull up at a red light and there's girls walking past going, oh, wow, that's gorgeous. What an amazing car. But it's going to get you there. But would you rather that, or would you rather a Ferrari that's got smoke billowing out the top while girls are walking past going, nice car, but yeah, come on, it's broke. So there are too many owners willing to who are making business decisions that are saying, well, we've given up too many assets. It's cost me too much money to get this asset. We're going to make the asset work, whether you like it or not. And then you bring in the second thing, so you can scrap it for parts and put it into that one to make sure that that asset works. You bring in your Andy Dalton in the hopes that, well, the pieces of Andy Dalton that work, you can put them into Bryce Young and that'll make Bryce Young work. That didn't work. Come on. And this is where you start to separate. A good owner understands business and football. Some only understand business. Some understand being a fan and owning it because they of that situation. It's just none of them are a good place to be if you're a fan. And I do think as well. I'm sorry, I realise I'm monologuing here. As a fan, we also like to tell everyone that we understand the process. We understand that you can't be a winner every year and that some years you're going to have to deal with a down year. Different when it happens, and it's different when a few years ago we didn't need to. When it was 0-6, when the Lions went 0-16, okay, there was Facebook around, but it wasn't nearly as available, and we all had mobile phones, but we weren't tweeting every 2 seconds with live updates on Twitter from fans and everyone alike. You didn't have someone sat at home tweeting along to it, but now you have a game where everything that upsets you can immediately shout about it, and then your mate, who's also feeling quite emotional because the game's on, can go and say, yeah, I'm also extremely upset by it. You can't just say, do you know what, okay, I understand it's going to be bad. No, you have to sit there, talk to yourself, and tell everybody how bad it is. And I think that's, to me, a level of where social media has allowed too many people to shout emotionally in the moment. You get that echo chamber, so it gets bigger. That shout just gets bigger, and it's not always coming from the best place or the most understanding place. Please, someone. I'm sick of my voice now.
It's I suppose it's that case of they need to. I think in terms of the Panthers, they need to make their decision and need to be honest and open about what they plan to do. If Bryce Young is going to be their quarterback for the future, which they have said, to then drop it. There needs to be a plan. I'm not sure there isn't trying. There needs to be a plan that this season, you basically say, this season's been a bust. Let's give him a chance to sit for Andy Dalton out there and see how it works and then learn. And I'm assuming that's what they're trying to do. They still want Bryce Young to be the future, but they are just waiting to see what he can learn as a backup for a year, rather than throwing him back under the bus and having him then taken out every single week. That's what I'd like to think they're going to be doing.
Absolutely.
What's probably is going to take them time. Or they'll try and stick down it on pieces for him. But I don't think I should be the bad. I think he's just
in a bad situation. It is a really horrible situation for Bryce Young. I do feel sorry for him, but let's not get it twisted. Okay, he has come from the proud state of Alabama. The Crimson Tide he came from, and what do we always see when we see Alabama? Obviously Nick Saban's retired now, but you've got Nick Saban, the best coach in the NCAA. You're going to have one of the best O-lines. You're going to have one of the best running games. You're going to have one of the best receiving calls. You're going to have one of the best tight ends in the game. You've got everything there with a very good offensive coordinator to actually help you set you up for that. It's easy. But when you're number one overall pick and you go to an absolute shockingly bad team like Carolina, the grass isn't always green on the other side. No. And that's the problem now with quarterbacks nowadays. When they get put in these bad situations, they are being forced to start, being forced to play. Only a franchise that is competent and understands that, yeah, you had some deficiencies in college. You need to work on that. We're not going to start you. Most bad franchises will just sling you out there, will throw you to the wall, sink or swim, every cliche in the book you can think of. And that's what they will end up doing. Yeah. So, the only ones that don't get that opportunity are players who get taken later in the draft, and then they end up getting sat behind. Brock Purdy's a prime example. Mr. Irrelevant. No one was expecting him to freaking come in and take Jimmy G's position or at the time Trey Lance's position. No one was expecting that. And what did he do? He after 1 year, he got in when Lance got injured and Garoppolo got injured. He stepped in, and what did he do? He took the 49ers to a Super Bowl. And that's sort of good development of your quarterback as well. Tennessee's a prime example. They took Malik Willis. They absolutely ruined him. So then Green Bay picked him up off the scrap heap. What have they done? He's only turned into an absolute star in the last since Jordan Love has been down injured.
Star. Yeah, he's been good.
Okay, he's performed well. Can we all agree he's performed well?
He's done a lot better than they did at Tennessee.
His most popular snap was because the centre threw up on the ball. Come on. The only snap anyone's really talking about outside of Green Bay is just because of that. Let's face it. Let's be real.
Tell you what, I'm curious for keeping that and not throwing it away.
Yeah, I cannot fault the young man's integrity for not putting the rest of the whole 22, the defense and the offense through that. Fair play to him. But I think, just looking back, we'll go try and, I guess, reel it back in just a little bit and look at some of the teams that we've got going now. Everyone expected the Bills to have a down year, and they're 3-0. And I watched Monday Night Football when they played. Okay, the Jags did great, but my days, they looked good, really good. The Bills.
Well, the thing with the Bills that I find is that they set themselves up well, given the fact they've got rid of Diggs, got rid of Gabe Davis. Keon Coleman's looked all right at the start of it, but they're throwing them is the main part of the game. But it's all about the quarterback running, and they've worked on that well. I think James Cook has been excellent this year so far when he's come in, which is a big thing to have, constant running back. Obviously, Allen is still a great running quarterback, and getting out of the pocket, getting those extra yards, and running. I think he's the average now. We've got 15 plus 50 yards a game at the moment. And then you've also got obviously Kincaid, who's is looking like he's going to be a top tight end in the league. He showed that last year, and he's showing it this year as well. Not been as involved, but he's been there. And they've also been able to keep a lot of their pieces on defense, and that's been a massive thing for them. Their defense has always been really strong, and keeping all the pieces flat has really helped. So it's again, go back to the whole idea of a well-run franchise. The Bills are very well-run, and they keep going in the right direction and making the right decisions.
Well, I'd say they're very well run. If you really want my personal perspective on that, McDermott and Brandon Beane, they are doing the work. The Pagulas have just left them to the job and just say, you do that. Because the minute they slip up, they take over, it becomes that Buffalo will start becoming a problem again.
Yeah, but that's where I said before, you've got to have the owners who are willing to turn around and say, do you know what, you're the football guys, you take care of football. Yeah. We trust you. I'm not a football person. You're a football person. You know football better than I am. I will allow you to, like I say, too many of these businessmen. You've got businessmen and you've got the fan people, but you've also got people who do think they need to be the smartest person in the room. The buck starts and stops with me. The best owners aren't. They're very good at that.
Listen, I'm not a fan of Buffalo. Okay, I'm a Pats fan. AFC East. I absolutely hate anybody in the AFC East. Okay, but I do show respect when I see them performing really, really well. And they deserve to be. Jacksonville, on the other hand, oh boy. Well, actually, I've got a bone to pick with you, Fletch, because you pre-season said you actually had Jacksonville as a bit of a dark horse. You look like a bit of a dark pony now because it's not gone well for you. But I'm going to point this out, okay? So Trevor Lawrence have always said he's a good quarterback, but he's not in that top level tier that we know he is, okay? I found out something a couple of days ago, which was absolutely damning, okay? So just hear me out, okay? First 48 career starts. He's 20-28. 63% completion. 12,204 yards total. 66 total touchdowns. 55 turnovers. And on average, it's 20.3 team points per game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who his quarterback comparison is?
Go on.
Daniel Jones. If you want Daniel Jones' stats, he's 19-29, 63% completion, 100 yards less than Lawrence, 64 total touchdowns, 55 turnovers, teams point per game, 19.6. Both these quarterbacks got the bag. Have we got has Jacksonville got a Trevor Lawrence problem? Have they got a defense problem? Or is it a combination of everything to go with Doug Peterson as well? Because they brought Doug Peterson in because he is a Super Bowl winning coach.
I think, right, so I like Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. I remember saying, I think it was in week 1, there were a couple of those throws that I think very few quarterbacks in the league were making. There was one of the touchdowns, I think it might have been to, I can't remember who it was to. No, it's been like I've slept since then, so I can't remember. But there was one of the touchdowns he scored in that game where it was a pass that, I know Goff can't make it. It was odd. It was just the way it went. It was just absolutely beautiful. I think every now and again, he shows a flash or he makes a pass or he makes a play that you just like, that's why you went number 1 overall, because you have that in your locker. But do it more. They have a fantastic run game in Jacksonville. Why can't you make the most out of that play action more? Why can't you do more with it? Why can't you get Trevor Lawrence to work off the back of it? It confuses me. But I would say that any quarterback will show flashes of being a good quarterback. They will, of course. But I think if you have certain things that you have that the likes of Trevor Lawrence has in his locker, that you are a good quarterback. I don't think it can be kind of put out there that he's not a good quarterback. I truly don't. But I do think it's a case of maybe not getting the scheme right around him. I do think that maybe he's a good quarterback with a very talented arm, but maybe he just doesn't get... Maybe it is a game problem, and maybe it's a him as a team leader problem and a scheme problem, but I don't know. I think he's got the talent. I truly do, and I thought that maybe this year they would get a lot of it. Together, they had a really good start last season and just bottled it at the end. It's the reason they play at Spurs every year.
He's 0-8. He's 0-8, right? Because it currently stands right now. He is 0-8. He's played the last 8 games and they've lost. Trevor this season has been awful. He's ranked 3rd worst in completion percentage. He's ranked 6th worst in passer rating. He's ranked 6th worst in touchdown percentage. He's tied 15th in touchdown to interception ratio, 2-1, and he's 6th worst in pass yards per game.
Right,
but then on the flip side of that, you've also got his defense, which is the worst in the NFL.
Yeah,
they're dead last in takeaways.
So
the only way you're going to help your quarterback is by getting takeaways, by turning the ball over. And Jacksonville's defense, currently as it currently stands, they can't turn the ball over.
You've got to also remember as well that when he first started in the NFL, he had Urban Meyer as head coach. That's enough to make him very bad.
That one of the greatest clusterfucks of a head coaching hire in our lifetimes.
Yeah, that instant in the bar. Oh boy, she wanted sauce zone. He wanted press coverage.
Balls. The next game.
Yeah.
So that's a massive miss for them on defense. So,
yeah. But I'm very disappointed in both of you there. You have bitterly disappointed me. So I'm going to say it one more time, and hopefully you don't disappoint me anymore. The Jaguars absolutely bottled it last year. Guess it's because they play at Spurs every year and they've got a little bit through that. But I thought, as Arsenal fans, you would have known straight away the shade thrown at Spurs.
I don't tend to think about Spurs that much, so it didn't clock in my head.
They're just there. They're there. They're over there somewhere. We don't care. Anyway, wrong sport. Wrong shape ball. Don't care. Move on.
I did also want to mention one team, though, that we have already mentioned and spoke about. There we go. Well, actually, we haven't. And there's a team I want to talk about going into this week. They have... Where have they gone on my screen here? They have the fixture that we had last week. They're away at Arizona. The Washington Commanders. Now, number one, I've got a question for both of you. And I'm loving it at the moment. Are we seeing yet another instance of QB2, pick 2, going on to not just simply be a better player, but go on and have a better career and be a better player than pick 1? But also, do you want to know a really fun fact about Washington? They have had 1 turnover. Like, their defense has caused 1 turnover all year, which isn't great. But their offense has caused 0 through the first 3 games. Extremely impressive for a rookie quarterback to walk into a situation with a brand new head coach. Well, not a brand new head coach, but a new head coach for the team. An entirely new situation. And no turnovers, which is why they're winning games. But anyway, the question I asked, are we seeing yet another incident? Is Jane Daniels going to be better than Caleb Williams? And again, is it QB2 off the board better than QB1? Pick 2 better than pick 1?
Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes on it, because it's only been week 3 so far. What we saw on Monday night against Cincinnati, that was Jaden Daniels' party game. That was his coming out game. What I saw from him was so good. The one thing we saw him that was very good at LSU was, of course, obviously his speed was his rushing as well. But his pinpoint precision with his passing is what elevated him. And watching that Cincy game back from Monday night, you saw that on paper what he is capable of. I think it was 91% completion. I think he missed 2 passes, throughout the entirety of the game. That is phenomenal for a rookie quarterback. That deep ball he threw at the end to scary Terry McLaurin, that was outstanding from him. I'm not going to say he's going to be better than Caleb Williams, because another member of our pod will try and knock my head off for it. Hello, Ollie.
I don't think Chapman will be that bothered.
No, it was Ollie actually. I think he loves Caleb Williams. I've always said that I'll give it time. We'll see how he gets on. But Daniels has shown that when the defense couldn't stop anything, he actually elevated that. He actually elevated to continue to move the ball down the field. Not to mention, he has got a good crop of receivers. He's got Terry McLaurin. He's got De'Ami Brown. But he's also got a good running back in Brian Robinson. And Austin, a good 1-2 punch there. And the offensive line it's not bad. It's not the best. It's not the worst. But it's actually not bad. It's keeping him on his feet. So I think Jaden Daniels is in a much better position. I would probably say. And the thing is, when Caleb Williams went to Chicago, all the hype was around how Chicago was, or all this receiving talent they got. They got the new tight end. Their defense looks amazing. They're going to really assert themselves, not just in the NFC North, but in the NFC in its totality. But no one spoke about Washington. No one spoke about Washington because we're just assuming that, okay, it's the Eagles, it's the Cowboys division. There's no way Washington are going to be anywhere near. Yeah. And what did I say preseason? I said there's the one dark horse look out for in the NFC, the Washington Commanders. I just think they're going to do something streaky and upset that division. Not say they're going to win it, but there's a good opportunity they could do better than what we anticipate. And that game, they continue to have more games like that against Cincinnati. They are a very, very spicy team to watch for the rest of this season. An exciting team to watch over this season.
What'll be interesting is obviously they've got Cardinals this week, but then after the Cardinals, they've got the Browns, which I think is a game based on how the Browns have the Ravens. Probably maybe looking at a loss there, but then they've got the Bears, two very much winnable games, and then the Giants, which again is a winnable game. So, they could be looking at, say they beat the Cardinals. They managed to get away with the Cardinals. Probably 3-1, 4-1 against the Browns if they win. 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, going into the Steelers in week 10.
Yeah,
they could be a playoff contender by then.
Absolutely.
But it's still got to remember that, this is where I think that some people, and I'm saying it's a case of wait and see what happens, because it doesn't always work out as nicely as it was, I think. So, plus, I still think that I think Caleb just has a lot of learning to do. In the pocket for me. That's his biggest. We've talked about the time he's had in college compared to the time that he gets in the NFL. And again, I'm not saying it's a slide, because at the end of the day, you do get more time in college generally than you do in the NFL. But his differential is massive. And that's where I think he needs to learn quick. And to be fair to him, give credit where it's due. He got a lot of yards last week, and he played well.
300, wasn't it?
So,
wasn't I think I predicted last week, Fletch, that he would throw his first touchdown pass.
Yeah.
So,
if you look at his stats from last week, 63% completion, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, if he put those stats on his own, he would turn around and they go, "Oh, they lost." You would expect.
Yeah, it was the 2 interceptions that he threw. Yeah. He needs to also learn, if there's nothing down there, instead of trying to force something to happen, just throw the ball out.
Yeah.
Don't play hero ball.
Don't play hero ball.
That'll come with more game time and getting used to the way the NFL works. Like I say, it's not like playing, Vanderbilt or
Arizona State.
Don't you bring them into this. Don't you bring them as a negative representation of whatever you're saying. You leave Kennesaw State out of this, you horrible man. But I saw it coming as well. The second you said K, I was like, it's not going with Kentucky. That's not happening. So ignore him. Ignore Sam with his negative talk about Kennesaw State. Yes, they haven't won a game yet this season, but they're not that bad. Anyway, I actually think it's a very fair point, but the thing is, one of the things we said about Caleb Williams was, prior to the season, was hero ball. He plays hero ball. In college, when, with all due respect, we've already said this anyway in the episode, it's average offense will still look elite against average to bad defense, just because of the benefits of being on offense compared to defense. And you have to be really good at defense to truly stifle an offense. It's very, very hard, because you're playing reactionary football unless, I don't know, you know what the team's doing. There you go. There's a college thing for you that you can have at both me and Carl with that one. But yeah, so you're going hero ball. You can play it and get away with it a lot more in college. You can get away with a lot more hero ball in college. You're not going to get away with it in the NFL. But I've noticed on a couple of occasions, I've watched Caleb Williams play. I've watched him try and make throws that everyone calls hero ball. And I watched one last week. Roma Dunze ran the wrong route. It was a genuinely decent pass that as he threw it, the ball just goes right past Dunze, and Dunze stood there. No, Dunze ran the wrong route. You can tell just the way the communication was, because it was purely an anticipation throw. If you throw an anticipation throws and your receiver's nowhere near there, the high chance is your receivers ran the wrong route. I cannot know for 100% sure. None of us can, unless you're in the Bears and you know the call. But the looks of things like that, he ran the wrong route. And if he's got receivers doing that as well, it's not helping him.
It'll be interesting to see what he has to do against. I mean, coming back to this week, it'll be interesting to see how he comes up against the Rams defensive line, because I think our defensive line has been phenomenal so far this year, given the fact we have two rookies. We lost Aaron Donald. I think he's been absolutely fantastic, given the situation of so I think it's the best team. It's showing great promise. And one of the things that we did, not in the Arizona game, but certainly last week against the 49ers, was we didn't give Purdy a chance to do too much. He was constantly under pressure, and he was forced to basically constantly look for John Jennings, because Tre'Davious White decided that he couldn't play cornerback for some reason, and just let John Jennings run all over it. But it'd be interesting to see what happens with Caleb Williams this week, because if he gets the same opportunities that Brock Purdy does in terms of time, he could struggle. But if his wide receivers can get open as John Jennings did, he could put some good yardage. Yeah. So I think it'll be an interesting game. And personally, I think we'll still win. But I just think it'll be a very interesting game from a Caleb Williams perspective.
Of course you think that you're going to win. Of course. But one thing I want to throw back to Jaden Daniels is I said after week one, I was very impressed with him, but they didn't let him do much. A lot of it was, I had to watch the highlights, I'm not going to lie, so I only got the highlight version. But every highlight I saw was, look, it's a check down. It's to the safe option, to the guy who's open 3 yards down the field, rather than a deep bomb 20 yards to the left and all that sort of stuff, which I was absolutely okay with. Absolutely allow that young man to get into a rhythm. Allow the young man to have the position to read the game. He had time in the pocket. Let him use his legs, all that sort of stuff. Great. In week 2 and 3, he has, like I said, every pass in week 1, bar 1, was within 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and 10 yards beyond. Within that 15 yard, all but one, which was like a massive go downfield. Since then, he has had in week 2 and 3, 9 throws beyond 10 yards. In week 2, they were all between 10 and 20, all 9 of them. In week 3, 6 of them were between the 10 and 20 yard line. 3 of them went beyond that. 1 to the 30 yard line, 1 to the 35, and then that absolute beauty of a 50 yard pass. I'm looking at the next gen charts, of where the actual pass goes. So before the yak or anything like that, where does the ball go and get picked up? Let him get in a rhythm game 1. Let him understand it. Let him get the feel of the pace of the game. Game 2, give him a little bit more freedom. Game 3, let that man let his arm out. So they're letting him evolve as the season goes on, and I'm very, very excited to see what they might let him do against Arizona this weekend. And then what's the next stage of this Jaden Daniels evolution? Or are we there now? Is it this for the rest of the season? Stay productive, let your arm do 1 or 2.
I would probably say that would be the best option for him. But I think that'll only work if Washington are ahead of Arizona. I think if they fall behind, and you probably are going to need, not be hero ball, but you are going to have to throw the ball a bit more down the field than what you usually do on a consistent basis. But if Jaden Daniels, if he plays with that level of confidence and keeps doing what he did in week 3 and plays it against Arizona, there's every opportunity he can make this. There's a good opportunity for this game between Washington and Arizona. It could end up becoming a basketball game.
Yeah.
It's end to end to end to end to end. You could be expecting like a 60-point game again for this, and I don't think Washington fans' hearts will be able to take that sort of excitement because they've not felt that in a long while. But they should be, because now you're under new ownership and now you've got a new lease of life. But yeah, we'll go back to Jaden Daniels. I think he's still got to keep on what he's doing, really. But if he feels like he can push that ball further down the field, and remember as well, guys, weeks 1 and 2, Terry McLaurin was hardly featured. Against Cincy, he came alive. So maybe that's something that's going to be looked at now. Terry McLaurin is wide receiver 1. He needs to get him involved better, and I think that will help him along the way.
Yeah. Another game, and I want to go out. There's a game particularly here now that's standing out to me, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I think in terms of two of my dearest people in my whole entire life, this game means a lot, and I don't want to be trapped in the middle of a Sunday matchup between my wife and Chapman. The Saints take on the Falcons this weekend on Sunday at 6:00. This is already turned into a beef that I have to manage, apparently, and I'm not happy with it. But it's a game that's going to be, again, this could be so interesting to watch because the Falcons have gotten slightly better each week. I think they were very unlucky in some senses. There you go. The Saints looked, everyone after week 2 potentially thought, I say everyone a bit hyperbole, but the Saints looked after week 2 like, this is the NFC's representation in the Super Bowl. They look that damn good, and then Sunday happened.
Derek Carr happened.
And I had to retract my apology to my wife on social media that I made in a podcast because yes, it was that bad a game. Divisional matchup, 2 teams that both shown great potential to do very, very good things. Both have had moments of being incredibly underwhelming. The Falcons put up a damn good fight against the Chiefs. This is going to be a fun. I really reckon there could be fireworks in Georgia this weekend.
I mean, this is already going to be a fiery game, given what at the end of last season between them, with all the the very last drive, and all that sort of stuff. This could end. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw at least one ejection on both teams.
You stole my thunder there. I do always look at like the Saints and the Falcons as basically like the Steelers and the Ravens. Absolutely hate each other, absolutely loathe each other. Someone's going to get ejected. There's going to be some shenanigans. We all know that. But as neutrals, we're just sitting back, cracking a beer, and just going, just knock 7 shades of shit out of each other, because that's all it's going to be.
As long as we don't get any of those the dark arts, and we've got a lot of talking in other sports about the dark arts. I do not want to see what I saw last week. Some of the players they play is just beyond dirty.
They got their just desserts though towards the end though. Jalen Carter was an absolute wrecking ball for the Eagles. If it wasn't for him, the Saints probably would have won that game.
Yeah, I think in terms of this game as a whole, I think it's going to come down to how the Falcons and how much they use Bijan Robinson and how well they scheme in this game, because one of the things that the Saints are very good at is stopping. They've done it. Apart from this, I know last week, obviously, Saquon Barkley managed to just go out to drive. 50 yards, but part of that, they held Saquon Barkley very well in the first half.
Yeah.
And if they can go back to that, then it could be difficult, because I still think Bijan Robinson should be their main guy, should be the guy that they run everything through, that they should be scheming him in screenplays and all sorts, and making sure that he is the focal point for their offense. But because of the way the Saints defense works and how good it is, to say the Saints defense is a very good defense, they need to find a way to unlock that, because that's their game. If they can't unlock Bijan, I think they'll struggle.
Yeah, agreed. Also, as well, you got Marshawn Lattimore as well, who'll probably be on lockdown on Drake London, I believe. He'll probably be locking down in. So that's also taken away your number one weapon there as well. It's going to be an interesting game how this one will work. I do believe that the Falcons, to me, they need to try and stop. Although Derek Carr can sling the rock, which we know he can do, their primary target will be to stop Alvin Kamara. That'll be their biggest one to start. If they can stop Kamara and put the ball in Derek Carr's hands, we'll see what will happen. But this Saints offensive line is actually not that bad. It's actually a pretty decent O-line. And if you give him time, there's a certain receiver by the name of Raheed Shaheed Need for speed that can get the ball down the field and throw 50, 60 yards and just send it into the end zone. So there's those. It's a thing. There's those to iron out as well. This is going to be a fascinating game to watch. All I'm going to say is this: it is not on one of my betting picks for this week. I can assure you that right now, because this game for me is too close to call.
There is also an argument that there is also a chance that it's unlikely, but there is a chance Kamara could not play. I know he was questionable and he hasn't practiced today or whatever. Maybe he wasn't yesterday, but he may not be available for the game. It's unlikely because he didn't come off injured. He still had his full reps last week, but there is a niggling injury there going on that could potentially keep him out. Or it's unlikely.
Would you like to know the spread of the Saints Falcons if you're interested? Atlanta are favourite by -2.5. Saints are +2.5 underdog.
Take into account though the 3-point home swing in betting. Saints are 0.5 point favourite, aren't they? When you take that into account.
Yeah, as I said, yeah. So as I said, this is going to be such a close game. This is going to be a war. And either Chapman is going to come onto the review show very, very happy, or he's going to be throwing shit at the wall. So
yeah, either way, you're stuck in the middle.
Yeah, I want to say either that or you're going to see. Like, hopefully, I am not on camera because I'm there for the review show, but my idea is for the review show to be kind of backstage, so no one will see it, but you'll have Chapman will just have my message going shoulder kind of, which will be fun. I think it's going to be a great game, though. Absolutely right, it's going to be a fantastic game. One thing you want to say. Absolutely. To be quite honest, I would more than likely go the same route as you there and say this would be my game of the week too. The other thing I kind of wanted to mention, as on the back of what you said there about Drake London being covered, and this is a question for both of you because both of you do it, but Sam, this is your forte primarily. Good week for Kyle Pitts fantasy owners, and I'm asking for a me and a me only. I need it, please. I need it.
So I've been saying, I've said from the start that when he first got drafted, he gets drafted, I think, in the first round in a lot of leagues, or at least in the top 2 rounds in a lot of leagues. He is not as good as everyone thought he would be. I never thought he would be that good. Once, I watched him a little bit more. There is potential, but the problem is there's something about him that just doesn't sit right with me when he plays. He has so much ability to be good, and he just has never really performed to it. Personally, because of how good that Saints defense is, I would probably avoid Kyle Pitts this week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I personally think you should. I think you should be putting Pitts on your bench. So last week, obviously, he brought in 2 or 5 targets for 59 yards on Sundays in some last Sunday's loss against the Chiefs. One of them was basically a 50-yard reception. So unless it's a big play, I don't see it being. We could say Marshall Lattimore might be blanketing Pitts in this game and not Drake London, because I don't feel Drake London is as much of a more of a threat as Pitts is, possibly in my own estimations. But that's just my own thing.
I think you're probably more likely to see someone like Debo on Pitts, because he is very physical.
True.
And he will hold his own against him. I think if you go to have any Falcons player, and this is more, you're going deep in your league, it's probably someone like Darnell Mooney, who they will have to get Cousins will have to go to someone that is likely to be him, because they'll probably be the most free.
Just wondering, has Darnell Mooney let Gardner Johnson out of his back pocket yet?
Don't know, he might still be there.
Gotta say, the best joke I've heard all weekend is, if you're looking for CJ Gardner Johnson, he's about 6 yards behind any wide receiver that he meets. So, but yeah, no, sounds great. Just as a quick one, are there any other games particularly taking your fancy? Maybe one that we haven't mentioned yet. I know we've somewhat mentioned a little bit of Seattle Detroit, which I biased a bit, but I think it's going to be a decent game. Has produced a couple of blockbusters over the last couple of years, but I don't think it's going to be a blockbuster this year. Tennessee Miami might be a fun game to watch for all the wrong reasons.
Quick, just a quick one. Is it in Tennessee or is it in Miami?
Miami.
I'm going to say this. I don't think everyone. I don't know if you've been watching the news as of late, but apparently there's a disastrous hurricane hitting Miami. I think it probably would have hit. It's going to be hitting a point in the next 5 to 6 hours in Miami. A lot of reports are basically saying it's potentially could be a Category 4 hurricane. So winds of up to 130 mile an hour. If that is the case, I'll probably put this down here. There's a chance that game could get postponed.
Yeah,
because I've been. I don't know if we've ever been on holiday to the Caribbean before, but I went back in 2004. I was stuck in my hotel room for 3 days whilst we had a hurricane. It was only a Category 2, I believe it was, called Hurricane Genie. But we were stuck for 3 days in our hotel, and our flight was the day after the hurricane hit us. So there's a good chance that game could end up being postponed. Don't bank on it, from my perspective. But this is just the news of what I've heard recently.
Yeah, that's right.
But you are right. It is a game for all the wrong reasons, excluding Mother Nature, but
gotta say that's the worst thing that happened. That's not the worst thing that could happen to Tennessee. The worst thing that could happen to Tennessee right now is just Will Levis, so they'll be fine.
Too much mayonnaise. Too much mayonnaise.
The worst thing that could happen is that one of the Dolphins QBs gets their hospital.
Again, yeah, not again.
Yeah. On that note, yeah, Carl, I think so. I was at Florida in 22 when the Cat 5 hit the coast of Florida, and we were still today. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if
this is a family-friendly visual show, Carl. Put it away. For those listening on audio only, he pulled his own ass out. I'm joking. He pulled the picture out of there.
Pull the boil.
He didn't pull the ball, yeah.
I didn't see the boil. It cropped the.
Go get that checked, my friend. I'm looking forward to it. It's the Vikings Packers. I'm really looking forward to this game because I think obviously from the Vikings already, we know they're going to be good. But the Packers have also been really good, even with less. I think for me, that's the other game. And again, it's a divisional game. It's a game which is always can be quite spicy. So.
Here's a question for you guys. If Jordan Love, because he's been practicing this week, if he's available to start, do you start him, or do you keep Malik Willis in for one more week, considering this is against a divisional rival?
I would start him if he's fit.
Mm-hmm.
Because as good as Malik Willis was last week, a lot is better. And the way that Vikings defense have been playing, you need someone better than Malik Willis, I think.
Yeah. Well, let me
that was the worst pun in the world you just used there, but I'll let you off.
Love is better.
Love is better.
Where's it gone? Let me have a look. Let's see if it's here. Jordan Love was in limited practice yesterday. Not out yet, today's designation, but he was in limited practice yesterday. Whether that makes much of a difference to you or not, I don't know what his practice designation was for last week and whatnot, so you never know. And yesterday, again, guesstimations, not because they'll be doing walkthroughs, etc. So, again, just going to throw this out there. Before we kind of wrap up, is there any other game that is specifically standing out to you?
I'll say the Thursday night game. And I'll tell you why, because if the Cowboys lose that game, their season's in life support.
Yeah, but it's also on that game's always so I don't expect it to end.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Prescott is 12-0 against the Giants. In his last 12 starts against the Giants, he's 12-0.
Yeah,
Daniel Jones is 1-12 in primetime games. There's simply no excuse for the Cowboys to lose this game. Otherwise, heads are going to roll.
It's not going to happen. I just think that, what's happened to the Cowboys last week has just been bizarre. I think they've gone against great, better offenses. And I think that's the difference. It's as good as Malik Neighbors is. Daniel Jones is not good. And the only reason they looked good last week was because what's it called? Last week.
Giants, they played the Browns.
Browns, yeah, because the Browns made them look good.
Yeah.
They made Daniel Jones.
Of course. Say that. Ollie said that. Okay, fair enough.
Ollie admitted they made Daniel Jones look good. It wasn't a case of Daniel Jones looked good. They made him look good.
Okay, can I just make a point for the Giants here? They've got a good running game with Singletary. Plus, also Daniel Jones prefers to run with the ball rather than throw. In the last two games, the Dallas Cowboys are going up a grand total of 464 yards rushing. That is criminal. That is absolutely criminal. So I'm not saying the Giants have no hope in hell, but you let the Giants get out to a lead, they can then sit on that run game.
Yeah.
And the one thing Dallas do not like is playing from behind. They absolutely hate it. Although fair play to Dak Prescott, it did almost, the Ravens almost done a Falcon, outdoing the Falcons by blowing said lead, but they held on. But their run, they can't stop the run, they can't set the edge. They're in pieces right now. And if you double team Micah Parsons, there's no one helping them. So this is why I say I'm not saying it's going to be. I'm not saying they got 0% chance to win this game. I'll probably give the Giants maybe a 15% chance that they could win this game.
The only thing I would say about the Cowboys also defense in terms of the run game is they've come up against two teams who their sole game is purely run. The Ravens, all they do is run,
and it works.
It works, yeah. And then the Saints, who again
come out, yeah.
Their game is either deep balls or the run, and it goes through tomorrow.
West Coast offense. As I stated, it's a West Coast offense. The Cowboys don't know how to stop a West Coast offense. You see, I might have already repeated this already, Fletch. When they played the Packers, the 49ers, obviously the Saints and another team, the Bucks as well, they struggle. They struggle for a West Coast offense. So They've got to try and find a way of this. They're not playing a West Coast offense when it comes to the New York Giants, but they should be beating them. They should beat the Giants. There is simply no... If I wake up in the morning and find the Giants have won 23-20, I am going to piss myself laughing because someone's head's going to roll. And I don't care if that's going to be... I don't care if that's Mike Zimmer. I don't care if that's Mike McCarthy. I could be a combination of both of them.
I think... I just want to say as well, I think this week, I'm looking at this schedule here right in front of me. I don't think this is a blockbuster week. We've not got big hitters, but then again, right now, some of those games may have looked like big hitters a couple of weeks ago, but the teams aren't quite what we thought they were. But what I do think we have is a week where there are a lot of quite even matchups, and a lot of these games, Tennessee-Miami, not going to be a good game. Well, sorry, it will be a good game for all the wrong reasons. But it will be an interesting and a fun game to watch. I think you're looking at Cincinnati and Carolina. That will be, I think, a good game. And I think actually for some of the right reasons in this one. Some of these get a lot of these games I'm looking at and thinking this is going to be a good game for the right reasons, but not a blockbuster. It might just be a bit gritty and dirty this week.
I think this week will be, because there are so many divisional games, for me, this is a indicator of how the season is going to go for teams. And I always think this about the divisional game because I think that comes to some point on with, their records are equal, goes based upon their divisional records. This week, I think there's a lot of telling signs to how the season's going to go. You look at the Cowboys, Giants, the Cowboys lose, season's over. You can't be going 1-3 and losing to the Giants.
Absolutely.
I think you look at the Vikings, Packers. That game could be the Packers setting out their stall for challenging for the NFC North title. Or this could be, are we seeing the Vikings where they going to expect to? Or are we going to see the Vikings all back down to earth a bit? And it's just a different as we could see at a turning point there. Texans against the Jaguars. I mean, that game could be very interesting in terms of how this could be the end of the Jaguars season.
Do you know what's even worse? And this only just crept my mind now. So we're talking about the Giants and the Panthers being probably the worst game on the European slate with the way their record are playing. There could be an even worse one. And this is only hindsight. Patriots and Jags meet up in London at Wembley Stadium, week 7. Both these teams could only have one win each going into that game. That is what you call the London Sewer Bowl right there. If that was the case, I think we'll get at least 2 more wins out of that before we end up in London. That's my perspective, but yeah.
For me, that was always the weaker of the 3 games. Surely because of the way the season started. So
yeah, I agree.
It's actually even more because of the way the Jaguars have started.
And a lot of people putting their tickets on resale as well, just saying as well.
I mean, you look at the next fixtures for the Jags going before they get to that game. Texans will be a loss. Colts will be a loss. Bears in London will be a loss. Like there's 3 losable games. There's also 2 potentially winnable games. So we could see an 0-6 team going into that game, or we could see a 2-4 game going into 2-4 team going into that week. And either way, it's not good.
I mean, could you imagine seeing 2 teams, 12 games, 1 win between them?
I think it's very realistic. I think
it's very realistic.
Wow. It surprised me going into that game that the Patriots won that game. Honestly, the way the Jacksonville started the season, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And so again, it's just a game. To be fair, I went to the Jags Denver Broncos game a couple of years ago. It's terrible. Last year's terrible.
It's basically if the Pats and Jazz go into that Week 7 game with only one win, it's basically going to be called two cheeks on the same arse bowl.
I watched that game on ITV and I wanted my money back for my TV.
You should immediately two things you should have done. A, you should have been immediately refunded, and B, you should have sued the NFL for deceptive advertising.
I rang Curry's on the Monday and went, I don't know what's wrong with this TV, but I tried to put on the Jags the Jags Broncos game. I don't know what this crap is that you've put on my television right now, but it's not a football game. And Darren Fletcher's commentating. What's going on here?
Dear.
I actually don't mind Darren Fletcher, by the way. I actually really like him.
This week is part of the divisional games. It's just a very okay.
But I mean, like, okay, the Cincinnati, Carolina again. Cincinnati are not a bad team. We're not talking about a genuinely bad team. We're talking about a team that's just not winning, like a good team that's not finding the way to win games. I'm looking at a Carolina team that they just really turned over a new leaf, and they look damn good in their win as well. It wasn't like Andy Dalton just got them over the edge. They look bloody good at the weekend. That could be exciting. The Rams Bears. That could be a genuinely good game as well. Like you say, the battle between the Rams D-line and Caleb Williams could be really quite fun. Because I saw a picture of there's a still of the Bears O-line from Sunday, and 3 of them are lying on the floor. Caleb Williams is running for his life. It's embarrassing. And I'm also.
I would love Matthew Stafford to give Caleb Williams a tutorial on how to be a quarterback in the NFL. And this is not me blowing smoke up Sam's backside. I do generally want to see Stafford show Caleb this is how you run an offense. This is how you do it.
This is what a quarterback does. But I'm also
this is what quarterback does without one of his best weapons as well.
Yeah. Broncos Jets, that might be a shit game. That's going to be a crap game. Jets are probably going to do him in unless the Broncos defense really turns up.
If the Broncos defense turns up on the Jets like they done against Tampa Bay last week, Rodgers is going to be in for a really hard time.
It's an interesting thing. It's just more breaking news, and I think there is more to this than just a simple injury. Devontae Adams has been added to the injury report with a hamstring.
He is not injured. I can guarantee this right now. He's going to be on trade deadline.
He's on a trade. That's what he's on.
Guess where he's going to go?
Jets.
Yeah.
Jets. He wants to go back. He wants to go back to AA run.
Yeah, he wants to go back to Aaron Rodgers. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. No thanks.
And to be fair, Mike Wilson is a third.
Mike Williams. You got Mike Williams. Alan Lazard as well. Tyler Conklin at tight end. Breece Hall at running back, and you got this Braden Allen, who is basically the speedster out of
and that defense as well.
If the Jets make the Super Bowl, I need to. Someone screwed up the timeline. If the Jets make the Super Bowl,
what upsets me though is only the Jets. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets do. Aaron Rodgers does what Aaron Rodgers does. He chokes in the playoffs to the 49ers. The only way you can do that is by making the Super Bowl. And the only other way he could do what he does is his last caught pass since. From the first one that got caught this season to the last one that got caught before that, it was a pick by Kirby Joseph, and Kirby Joseph picked Aaron Rodgers off twice that game for the 3rd time that season. So my prediction is either the 49ers turn it around or Jets-Lions Super Bowl. The Lions win it with a Kirby Joseph interception. Calling it. Storylines, because I know a script when I see it. But with that in mind, I think this is a good time to. I think we're a good time here in the episode. We've had some really good things to look forward to. What I will say is, and we'll try to kind of throw a couple of bits out. Number one, if you stuck with us through this so far, still, thank you so bloody much. Again, no one knows how you do it. We really, truly appreciate it. Follow me, Lions Guy Fletch, on social media. Follow at SamRam47 on Twitter. Follow at KB Arsenal Pats 32. All links will be in the description. Give us a follow on social media. Follow the aaw_network. Keep an eye on us, because I've got, like, genuinely some things that have gone on this week. Some conversations that we're having in the background. I promise you, things are going to start we are going to start doing some really even more exciting things. We've got some stuff coming out on Monday night that isn't the Hurdle the Line podcast, the review show, that is damn exciting, that we just can't release yet. I'm really, really excited for it. Got some interviews coming. We've got the college football stuff coming. We've got lots of really exciting stuff. It's a really good time to get in on the ground with the AAW network. Yes, I'm doing the tooting my own horn kind of thing here, but I don't care. I'm really excited right now. I'm really, really happy. So, yeah, get in touch with us. Get on some of the stuff that we're doing, and we'd love to have you joining us along our journey. Without further ado, thank you, Karl. Thank you, Sam. Stay tuned tomorrow for our pick'ems as well. See you next week. Right, I forgot to tell you, Sam. It was 5